Hi everyone. Uh, very good evening, and very excited to be on this chat with Asha today. This is our Women Empower Women series that we've been conducting for quite some time, and Asha is joining us today from US. So let's wait for her to join, and then I would like to take a few minutes to introduce her. She works in the public health care sector. Hi Meg, thank you for joining. And she's a very well-known person. She's the co-founder of the Bangalore Birth Network. And today we are going to talk on a very intriguing topic: how feminism can actually propel self evolution. So just waiting for Asha to join us, and we'll get started. Hi Asha, I can see you. I'll just add you. Hi,
Hi, Divya.
good morning to you. Asha, can you hear me?
Hi, you're back. You're unfrozen.
Yes. Yeah. So, thank you so much, Asha. It's such an honor, that you are with us today. And I was really looking forward to this chat with you, and wanted to really understand how feminism brought in this self-evolution and what went behind it. And we know that you have been working for many years in the public health sector, especially for women. And there's been so much contribution from your side into with the government, and also the NGO, Bangalore Birth Network, and how positively you've impacted lives of many people. So welcome once again to the Women Empower Women series at Scape. And please share a few lines about yourself, Asha. Then we can start with the topic.
Sure. Well, thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me. I'm not terribly comfortable with these formats, so I'm gonna say that straight up. You know that about me. You know, the pandemic, we've all had to do a lot of things that are not very comfortable. Right.
Yeah.
I I work in public health. I've worked in public health for over 20 years. I really started out in community-based research. And I think that always attracted me, as opposed to kind of a desk job, if you will. I was really keen to really visit, to kind of see with my own self, the lived realities of people's lives. And for me, I grew up in the US, and a lot of people know that about me. And then I moved to India with a partner, and initially I just thought it was going to be maybe a few years, and decades later, I'm still there. And it was really odd, Divya. I definitely say that. I think it's certainly not, everything is relative, and at that time moving to India was really kind of it was like a bird flying in the wrong direction, essentially, because everybody was still, after decades of migrating for, better opportunities, right? That mindset was very strong. And people would look at me really odd, and they kind of, they try, and you know how it is in India. They don't really try to hide that.
Right.
um, they'd say, "But why didn't you take your husband there? What are you doing here?" Type of thing. So, I was always, I think, a little anti-establishmentarian at core. Um, so I have a degree in public health and a concentration in maternal and child health, but I've done a lot of work also in nutrition and in health policy and universal health care and access to health care. And, a lot of, I think, people's movements and community-based organizations have really close to my heart, including the People's Health Movement, which is called the Jan Swasthya Abhiyan. Um, and then
Right.
along the way, I decided to freelance. And, Nora Kropp, my co-founder and friend, and others actually were involved, Ellen and Ellen Combiel and Paige Trabulsi and a few others. We started Bangalore Birth Network. And initially it was just not just, but it was a kind of an informal support group, I'd say. And it was more of a think tank in a sense of how do we really, what is this, what are the similarities, the underpinning similarities between urban and rural differences in healthcare access and in obstetrics,
Right.
and how do we change that? How do we even begin to address it? Because at that time, 2007, 8, 9, very few people were really, I think, even aware that there's a different way for women to receive and participate in their own care.
Right.
And of course, that goes across all of women's health and adolescent health, and even,
Right.
the entire life cycle of females and women. But we were looking, of course, specifically at maternal and child health, particularly newborn
Right.
child health. So
Right.
that's my background. It's got some research in it. It's got some policy work in it. It's got some entrepreneurship in it, building organizations, governance. I'm also a co-founder of an urban governance group called Civic. Um,
Okay.
that is
Okay.
our work in participatory governance. So yeah, that's me.
Awesome, awesome. It's full of, experience backing it, and there's so much to learn from you. So tell me something, Asha. How did being a feminist impact your thought process or the kind of work that you were doing at that point in time? And what was the journey like? And how did you kind of then evolve, to the time that you are in today? So, what was the journey like?
Well, Divya, I think, and I'm curious to know if you've had a similar, kind of feeling about this. But, I think we kind of reach our adulthood, and that's adulthood in name only, uh, um, kind of post college. And we think, oh, I have this degree and I'm an adult now and I know exactly what to do. My life is in my own. I'm at the driving. I'm steering the wheel and I'm in
Yeah.
the car. And I went to a feminist college, and I had an amazing experience. I think instead of 4 years, I actually needed about 6 years. That would have been ideal. That, wasn't possible, of course, but and it was, I think, really there that I, you know in terms of feminist literature and writing and activism, I mean, that's really for me was, it was the very quintessential college coming of age type of experience. I had some amazing friends, people from all around the world. I was very lucky to meet really sharp minds, and women from other countries who had already experienced so much and, you know, really had I would say, a global view of feminism, right? So it wasn't just a particular brand of feminism. It wasn't American
Right.
feminism, or it wasn't, South Asian feminism. It was kind of a mix. And
Right.
um, I learned a lot from watching them. I mean, I think, my uh, saving grace has always been that I'm intensely curious. I'm just an
Yeah.
intensely curious person about all kinds of things. So they were as much my teachers as my professors were, you know. And I had some amazing professors. I still keep in touch with them, a few of them.
Lovely.
Yeah, one person in particular, Kathy Reisman, who actually taught a class called sociology, and that was an eye opener to me. And it was an eye opener to look at issues around feminism. That was something, we did cover in the class, but issues around empowerment and how
Mm.
that relates to our own health and our own participation in our families, in our communities, in our political process.
Right.
So it, it was it was amazing. But I think, I would say, where was that not enough? It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough because I think it lacked the tools of mindfulness and um, a deeper self-inquiry.
Uh-huh.
A kind
Mhm.
of self-inquiry that actually goes even beyond those identities. you know so I think, feminism is very important. I think it's a tremendous, understanding and learning about the various, forms of feminism is very empowering on many levels. And we kind of come to see, really a historical analysis. We come to see the cause and effect of many things that we can apply and or we can relate to in our own lives.
Right.
But
Right.
where do you go after that? So you see, let's say, any type of injustice or any type of disparity or inequality, and it's seeing it as the first step and understanding it. And
Right.
what do you do with it then? How do you
Right.
apply it to really change your own life,
Right.
to change yourself? I think that, for me, actually only came much later.
Mm-hmm.
It really only came many several years later, I would say. And for me, that was really through mindfulness practices. More spiritual, less on the religious side. I mean, I'm
Right.
open minded. I'm not for or anti religion in that sense.
Yeah.
I think religion is culture. It's also cultural.
Right.
um, I think the mindfulness practices they really kind of deepened everything. It took everything to a different level. And it's something I still do. It takes a lot of time. You and I have talked about this a little.
Yes. Yes,
And
indeed.
I'd be interested to know how you
Yeah.
feel, if that also made an impact in your life, and how so.
Yes. In my life, Asha, it was a background of a sports background. We were brought up in a very tomboyish way, right? And looking at spirituality probably was not as much because that there were no set scriptures or texts which we could read or study. For me, it was a little later, fairly recently, about 4 years back, that I got into Buddhism, and I think from there I could truly, bring that spiritual connect with myself and the environment that I'm in. And it made a lot of sense to me because I could see things very, very clearly post that. I could see and I could understand what kind of value am I creating wherever I am, may it be work, personal life, or with friends and family, right? Um, what what is the kind of person that I want to be? And am I compromising it at any level? in any of these roles. If I am that, then either I leave or work towards it, right? So my perspective truly changed, I would say, because without this connect with yourself, you are actually lost. You don't know what you really want, right? And you're just into the scheme of things, but and you're not content, and all that rut kind of comes in. But the moment you are connected with yourself and you understand the meaning of life, you slowly, I wouldn't say I've mastered it. I mean, I'm far away from that. But I've come to realize that I mean, there are numerous possibilities, numerous things, and it's how you take it, how you want to apply it to your life. Nobody else is going to come and do it for you, right? So it's you who's going to shape. So very similar to what you said, Asha. I totally agree. And mindful practices definitely, bring that composure that one requires in any kind of activity or any kind of thinking process for that matter.
Yeah.
And it's all value based at the end of the day, isn't it? Am I doing my best at what I can do? And then it's the sphere of control, right?
Right.
What I can control and what I cannot control. So what I can control, can I have a positive ripple left in whatever I'm doing? Is it adding value to me or to somebody else? So I think that's where, that's how have started to look at things at work, at home, with my kid. That's how I read, but very similar to what you shared. And of course, feminism is the basis of it because I feel that women have far more challenging atmospheres wherever they go, because there are many things that are left to women. But if you are not vocal enough, um, then it can be a little tough. So you got to be vocal. You got to know what is being um, just done under compulsion, which you can avoid, right? And have equal responsibilities even in marriage. So I think if it was not for feminism, a lot of the things that we now see women do, we wouldn't have seen before.
Yeah.
So a bit of feminism, I think, doesn't hurt anybody
Yeah.
and makes a lot of difference in a woman's life, though.
Yeah, I think it gives us a lot of role models. You know,
Yeah,
it gives us relationships. It can give us friendships. I mean, it can also, but without it being coupled with, I think the mindfulness or some, and the mindfulness is it's a very broad term. It could be anything. I mean, I have friends who've found mindfulness through religion and their faith.
right,
I have friends who found it through, other non-spiritual practices,
right,
non-religious forms of either meditation or, there's so many ways to do it.
right.
Because I think, it, what I, it has to somewhere trickle deeper where you really start uncovering your own patterns,
Yes,
your
yeah.
own, down to the level of every thought you're having, every emotion you're having.
And
Um,
you talked about curiosity, having that seeking spirit, um, and that integrating it with your persona, with your personality, and seeking, okay, what is it? What am I supposed to do? What's my life's mission? What am I good at? What is my life's goal?
yeah,
The moment we start answering and questioning ourselves,
yeah,
I think we find answers.
yeah, absolutely. And otherwise we kind of get, in some ways, I think otherwise, feminism can sometimes, I think that happened in my case. Everyone's different, but I think in my
Yeah,
case it actually added more pressure because I felt like I, here I went to this great college, very strongly feminist college, and here I had all these amazing friends that were just doing these wonderful things, and I was like, well, what's happening to me, you know? Why, how come I'm not quite getting there? And I really went through this period in my 20s where I just felt like I was faltering a lot. um,
Mhm.
and you know, it's easy to be overpowered. You know, I don't think it's easy to start comparing yourself. You know, so you know,
Yeah,
anything, even feminism, in one way it's liberating, in another way it's another framework of comparison. And
yeah,
comparison is you know, Jiddu Krishnamurti, you know, used to say that comparison is a form of killing. It's a form of killing oneself, and one's potential, one's,
true.
you know, the sacredness
Very well
of
said.
what each person is. You know, each. So I actually had to go through a lot of that, where then I found myself with all these ideas or all these, um, you know, kind of nascent urges and drives of wanting to do this and that, not actually finding a, that personal efficacy to make
Mm.
it happen. You know,
Right.
you know, I was saying to somebody that I wish, like in my 20s, somebody I had, um, you know, realized that a lot of this is choice, how we react, how we respond, what the effect that something is on us, emotionally, you know, the mental, emotional. Um, if we see it, if we come to realize that it is actually a choice. Now, that doesn't change
Yeah,
that takes a lot of
very
watching,
true.
inner watching work, but it's really
Yeah,
empowering. Otherwise, you know, you're kind of some type of, you know, you're just like a fly getting swatted around, you know. Or maybe some people are the other, you know, and um they're kind of too much into themselves and too self-absorbed.
yeah, yeah,
um, you know, because ultimately, you know, Divya, it's even feminism is a kind of identity, and I think we need to cultivate this very spiritual space in us that goes beyond identities, that
yeah.
goes beyond,
Very true.
um, you know,
Very.
having, and it takes courage. It's, you know, it's about developing the courage,
Yes.
the heart, the compassion within oneself, and to everyone, actually, to be able to shed those identities, and go deeper and go deeper and say, what am I? You know, stripped of all that, what am I, and who am I? Um,
Yes.
I mean, I think you follow some Buddhist practices as well. You know, I mean, I kind of saw different, um,
Right.
you know,
Yes.
faiths, and you know, I'm really open minded on that front. And
Great.
but it's like, you know, there's those Zen koans that they talk about. You know, it's which are like stories or questions that um, are used to provoke really a great self-doubt within one in order to go deeper and question
Mhm.
deeper. You know, and there's one that says, you know,
Mhm.
what was my face before my mother was born?
Uh,
So what was this identity? You know, what am I, you know, um, even prior to all these identities, you know,
right.
what is me? um and it's you know, there are a lot of really, and I think a lot of people, you know, it's exciting, and I'd love to hear about this with respect to even your work. I think this is not only the personal is the first step, but this is what we
Yes.
bring to our families, to our friendships, our relationships. It's what we bring to our work. And there are a lot of people writing and talking about this and how to really apply this in all these settings.
Right.
You know, how
Right.
to pick apart the kind of constantly in these psychological habits. um you know, we keep
True.
thinking the kinds of thoughts, you know, the same kinds of reaction, you know, and
Yeah.
therefore we get the same
Yeah. You
behavior,
get
right?
into a pattern, a cycle of patterns, and it
Yeah,
just goes on and on without
exactly.
actually making you progress into anything.
Yeah, yeah, yes. So how do you, has it been useful to you in your management work? would you say?
Um, yeah.
Or do these kind of separate worlds, or do they converge anywhere?
I think it does because even at work, it is the only thought process that I have is if I'm sitting in this meeting and I'm spending about an hour of my time, I better spend it properly and add some value, take some learnings, and utilize this time. Right? I'm here for a purpose, and I need to fulfill it to the best that I can. If I'm not able to, then I learn. And I take back my learnings and I evolve. And that's how you progress. That's how your evolution starts, right? Uh, if you're not interested, if you don't want to really, you know, do anything, but okay, somehow just get done with the meeting and walk off, it's not going to add value to anyone. And you as a person are never going to evolve. You're just going to be there, right? Every morning I get up, I do learn something new, Asha. It can be anything, and I like trying things. I like to experiment with things just to learn, just to learn. Because I don't like maybe it's the way I've worked all these 15 years in IT and consulting that I don't like to delegate without understanding myself, right? What am I delegating? Okay, what am I asking this person to do if I am not clear about it? That's why I like to understand, I like to get deeper into subject matters so that I know what it is. And then, of course, the team is there and you delegate it. It's like that. So,
Yeah.
it's at work also I feel if I'm not adding value, then I'm not doing justice. And then it's similar it and it's I think even at home, with my child, right? I think this is my mantra. If I'm not adding value to whatever I'm doing, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
And it's a waste of the other person's time, it's a waste of my time. So I think this is the crux of how I've realized to get things.
Right. 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 Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. So that's that, that takes um, being in a state of knowing.
Yeah, aware,
I added because
aware.
it's right, because there are external yardsticks for that, especially in organizations. I mean, we know that we have, did I achieve this, and this? Did I get, these key result areas, and how have I performed in that? How has somebody else performed in those? Um, but it's really those are external, and it's not that they're not important. And it's
Yes,
the indicators on which, the organization will of course evaluate
right.
us. But there's a deeper knowing within yourself. Am I am I adding value? Am I adding value to myself? Because if you're adding value, you're going to be um, you're going to be adding value, and you're going to be receiving value.
Yes,
So that's,
absolutely.
I think one of the things, Divya, for me, that one of a big game changer within myself was to be less judgmental. Um,
Less judgmental.
not
It's
that
very,
means I
it's
or
very
accept
tough. It's
uh,
very tough.
enough, but to say, okay,
It's super duper tough. I keep trying, but I do
yeah,
pass judgment sometimes.
yeah, and to
Super.
hear, hearing without immediately judging. I mean, the judging is there. It's like this pressure
Yeah.
at the back. It's like it wants to have an opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I try to hold it back and say, okay, what if I were to live life, my day-to-day life, let's say, where I really abandon this lens of right and wrong, where I say, okay, oh, she was wrong to send me an email like that, or he was wrong to not go to, my kid to not listen to me and go to bed on
Mm.
time. They were wrong to submit this, you know, um, proposal that
And yeah,
has,
I'm getting it.
everything is right and wrong so often. Um, but if we kind of take that out. Are you back? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Can
back.
you hear me?
Sorry. Yes, yes, I can.
So I think for me, one is, as I said, the forces of change of in the last some years has been this pulling out this lens and keeping it aside, although it always wants to creep back, you know, and say, you're not wrong, you're not
And if
right.
you are able to shove it back, you are doing a great, great thing. It's so difficult. It is so difficult.
Let me hear what you have to say, because once you pick up on the energy that I'm hearing, I think you're going to truly hear me a little better. And then, there's just, I think, I've seen an expansion of, of just much greater consciousness and change. There have been situations in my life that honestly were really devastating. And I just thought, you know, what did I do? I mean, and that's when I love to, of course, back to the, karma principle, which I'm not entirely not having grown up in India, I didn't really grow up with that as a strong construct. But of course, when things go bad, you're like, oh my God, what karma did I do to get this, right? but
Right.
most despondent situations, um, for me, have actually a bit and enlightened, and I think, I don't think it would have been possible if I had not really gone after in a very, being really tough on myself about questioning every thought that I was having, every micro
Yeah.
emotion that I was having. Witnessing, of course, and then questioning, and I think that questioning kind of breaks things up and allows for
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Um,
And
so we have
I
a
think before reacting to things, before really, getting into, okay, he said that, I said this, and raking your brain into it. I think letting go and then really, sitting down with your thoughts and thinking, okay, what did exactly happen, and am I comfortable with this or not? If not, okay, I'm not going to invest more of my time on this because it's not going to go anywhere, right? And to
yeah,
fight it out, Asha, I mean, it takes energy. It gains a lot of time. Do you have time for all that? It kinds of put. Is it worth it? Do I really need to go through all this? So I think
and
I've practiced a lot of let going.
absolutely, and the practice of the let going is it's a constant practice. It doesn't happen so quickly because you feel like you've
Yeah,
kind of let go of something, and then before you know it, at some point something triggers it and it comes. You know,
yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah. Yes, yes.
you
Agree.
know,
So, before we go forward, Asha, Meghala has a few comments that she's left us. I'm just reading that out for you. People often misplace feelings of anti-feminism in the quarters of men, often forgetting less entitled women are often the forebearers of patriarchy, while a lot of men rally for gender equality. The awareness regarding that only happens, one second, it's gone up. Huh. The awareness regarding it
we've
only
gone.
happens when we evolve ourselves to realize the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, thanks for the comment. You know, I mean, I think, we women do perpetuate patriarchy a lot, and because that's what we've known,
a lot.
that's what we've grown up in, and that's what we've been conditioned to. That's what entire historical and cultural context that we live in, and the collective consciousness of all that is, that much weight is behind. So absolutely, I mean, I have examples that in my own families, and I'm sure we all do. My grandmother was an incredible force in the family. I mean, she was really the head of the clan. Um, However, I think she definitely, support the men more than the males more than the females. Not that she didn't love them. Love did not translate into those forms of equality that feminism has told us and shown us
Yeah.
is very important, whether it's education equality or economic equality. There's so much of it, right? So I
Right.
and right, you're right. In this, there are a lot of men that are really battling for equality and all different kinds of equality. Um, so I think that's the thing, is that inequality of all kinds exists, whether it's gender, it's caste, it's class, and in income, it's ethnic group, it's all kinds of things.
Right.
And once you start priming your eyes and attuning your eyes and your mind to it, you start to see where it's playing out everywhere. And but again, I think the way to, or at least for me, I don't want to, I have no prescriptions on any experts in this, I've got expertise in public health and maternal and child health. I don't claim to be an expert in this area, but I can just, I'm speaking to what's my journey and what's worked for me, and what is
Yes.
working for me. It's a constant self. I'm not there. I have times, I but I have the tool to get myself out of it. And I think that's
Yeah.
important. And I think, Divya, one thing is us bringing this to, in terms of how we interact. I think more formal frameworks, and more within our teams would really help, in all kinds of
Yeah.
organizations. So, yes, I'm working on myself, and that's great, and that's a lifelong endeavor. But
Right.
what am I bringing to my team? I mean, apart from being,
Yes.
I'm the acting director at BBN right now, and that's great. And I'm genuinely trying to be empathetic and compassionate, person there. But
Yeah.
what am I doing on that? How am I helping others in the team, in the organization,
Right.
um, in the ways that I have been helped and helped myself? I
Right.
think, and there are
Right.
some really good out there. I mean, some of the recent people I've read, I mean, there's a lot of good writing. He's written a nice book on leadership called Reboot, which I think
Okay.
I found really useful. And then there's a woman named Angel Kyoto Williams. She's an American, kind of a Zen Buddhist. She's kind of a leader of community change. She writes and speaks really well. But
Okay.
there's so much. I mean, I'd say, this is where being in India was amazing, because I think it's being in India and this rich tradition of so many mindfulness and spiritual practices, that that's where I really stumbled
Yeah.
into it. That's really where I stumbled into it, a
Yeah.
while, and each one brings you to something deeper.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
I think women can be really, it's not, we think that, and I'm sure people who study this would have, other things to say about it. But I think sometimes, at least when I was younger, I used to think, oh, because it's another woman who's my supervisor or my boss, I, she's going to understand me. Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
I definitely saw, as the the comment that came in, I definitely saw a lot of, um, I would say,
That's a beautiful point that you just said, and it really, my mind started churning that. Is that um, am I can I be the person who can groom people the way I was groomed? Can I do that? Because
yeah,
that will really, bring up somebody and make a lot of difference to a person. I think
yes.
I'm going to take that
Can
point
you
and really
hold them?
think more
Can
on
you hold
that. It's a
space?
beautiful
Can you
point.
hold in that? And that would be amazing. I think what happens is, oftentimes women are, we're as you said, we have so many pressures, so many responsibilities, um, and then we're like proving ourselves so much. So it takes a
All the
tremendous toll,
time.
and emotionally, and
Yeah.
oftentimes I don't think we are very supportive or even open in our communication with each. I think
Yeah,
I've
I agree.
seen a lot of passive aggressive behavior, not just with men. One sees it with women as well. And it's human. It's a human coping mechanism sort to, and we have to really
Right.
watch it and never use that. Never use the and it's tough. It's tough to even recognize it. We're so
Yeah.
such a common mode of being, um, that it becomes difficult to. But and it's hard to have dialogue. It's kind of hard to say to somebody, you know what,
Yeah.
I was really upset when you said that, to me. Or I thought you had my back, and I thought you were gonna back me up when I said this at the meeting, and you said something totally opposite, and you didn't support me, and you knew that, you know what I mean. So it's harder to have those conversations.
It's very tough in a professional setup. Super duper tough. And if you are in that situation, it takes a lot of time to actually turn tables. And at a point, even many
Yeah,
instances happen where you are put into this kind of testing phase, or prove yourself. Can you do it? And are you worth it? Are we betting on the right horse? Right? And there's a lot of pressure, and believe me, Asha, there have been days and nights where I have not slept because I need to prove myself the next day. I need to do something. I need to, everything needs to be perfect. I cannot fail. Those kind of pressures. And when it comes to dialogue, um, if the other person is hell bent that I'm not going to take this feedback, okay, I'm disregarding this, I'm not going to listen to this, it's a tough spot. And if
yeah,
things are out of, that's why, this fear of control is very powerful. If you really can identify whether can I really influence this or no. And if the answer is no, then let time pass by
yeah,
and you keep doing
yes,
whatever you are meant to do.
yeah.
Because
don't,
it
don't
becomes an
react
endless,
immediately.
yeah, it becomes an series of dissatisfaction. The other person is not getting impacted. You would be, starting to get impacted. You would try to always, try to prove. No, no, no. This is what I was saying. And it's not worth it, is what I feel. Most of the time, I feel it's not worth it. Focus that energy into creating something rather than going
Yes,
in that direction.
yeah. So I think these kinds of things, Divya, have not become commonplace in the workplace yet. I think
Yeah.
we when we onboard new people, when we're new team members, new whatever, consultants, we, of course, there's a training, there's they get oriented to to the mission. We really don't spend, a lot of kinds of, issues of how do we interact, how do we what kind of relationship do we want with each other, what do we do when things
Yeah.
go wrong, what do you do when you're unhappy with how your did something, or your colleague is unhappy with what you said or did or didn't do, or
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. So there have been times when uh, there was no way that you could really resolve it. So all I could do is put my view forward and then leave it at that and just get going with my own thing. Uh, it's not easy. It's not easy because day you are absolutely feel like, oh my God, miserable, what is this? And you start questioning things. But then I think uh, the, the moment you start looking at, okay, next, okay, this is done, this is, we can't do anything about, okay, what next? Um, and of course, when I'm saying this, that doesn't mean I'm disrespecting anyone. No. With
right,
with utmost respect, taking that whatever is the decision or uh, the approach which is not in my favor, maybe. Right? I'm not disrespecting anyone, and I do take feedback very, very. I mean, I appreciate feedback actually, and I take that and I take my time to process it. I'm not disrespecting or getting into a very head-on fight or anything like that, but taking that feedback, processing it, sharing my feelings, and that's about it.
yeah,
More than that, I think in a professional space, we have our own boundaries and we cannot really cross those. But of course, if the person is watching your actions and, seeing the things you are taking in your stride, people do notice. People notice the kind of professional you are. People notice, and not many people have this quality also. It's a quality which is built over a period of time, a period of experience, and not everyone can, be like that. So when people see that you are a thorough professional and then, things fall in place. I have had many such instances, but uh, I'm not saying I don't get angry or I'm not on the phone with my colleague yelling. I do that. But at the end of the day, uh, you know, respect is there.
you're not
Sorry.
I said, yeah, you're not yelling, swearing, and and putting the phone down, and doing you know what I mean. There's a series of that no, you're right. Artificial calm. It's not about this artificial. It's not about also repressing oneself.
Yeah, it's not about that. Correct, correct.
No,
It's
no.
not artificial. You are trying to be sane, even though there's an ocean boiling under you, but you're trying to be sane but it's tough, Asha. It is not easy, and the battle is and it has repercussions too. I mean, it can go either ways. It
Yeah.
can go
Oh,
either way.
it can go either ways, and I mean, I have people I've worked with who I don't associate with anymore. Not, and that's also okay. Also, you don't have to
Yeah, you don't
like
have to.
somebody. You don't have to expect it, and be unhappy when you don't like them, or they don't like you. No, more importantly, and they don't like you. um, it's okay. It's okay. But can we, peacefully, coexist?
Yeah.
Civilly, coexist, and say,
There are
it's
people I've seen. I don't know. You've met such people or not who you purposely want to kind of get into an argument, who want to purposely instigate you, and only if you're aware of these patterns will you be able to dodge But if you're not aware of it, you will get into that, right? So I think it comes by experience, and you know that okay, this person is going to talk like this, and then you kind of don't associate yourself into that energy at all.
You know, Divya, that's true. And I would say those kind of people and situations are, it's not pleasant and it's difficult. I think in some ways, the more insidious examples are when those that are not accompanied by someone being overtly domineering. You know, when someone's overtly domineering, that has its own psychological effect, depending on your own psychological construct. Some people kind of become very docile and try to increase their effort to try to please someone who's very domineering.
Hmm. Hmm.
Well, some people react differently, and they're like, hey, you know what, I'm going to quit, this doesn't work for me. um, but and I'm one of those that always please people. I had this like need to um, have approval, that people should like me, I should do my work well, and they should they should recognize me for the value I bring, and I think it you know because of that, I kind of remained in situations much longer than I should have.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
important to know when to leave. It's important to know
Right.
when, whether it's a job or an assignment or even a relationship. It's important to know that. But I think sometimes the more insidious stuff is people are. I don't know if you've experienced this. I've experienced this, where people are very polite. So you're the people with the power in charge are very polite, but and so you kind of get you get fooled. Your brain gets fooled into thinking it's all good, and then you look back and you're like, wow, I just got co-opted into a whole bunch of ways that I don't think was good. But they because they did it in this very not a challenging or domineering way. So again,
It's
it all
very
comes down
difficult.
to
Yeah.
really what I can just share is honest.
Such, yeah, such situations, I think that's where our practices really help us, and really help us channelize and look at the situation, and it kind of gives you a lot of strength and the courage to take it head on. Okay, fine.
Abs- Absolutely, strength, courage, the ability to witness
And also, I
oneself,
read
the ability to create
a beautiful quote which said that humility should not be mistaken uh, as I'm just forgetting, as cowardice. Humility
as
should
courage.
not be mistaken as cowardice, and I really like that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And we're living in difficult times. Between the pandemic, between all the economic fallout, all the existing injustices and disparities, um, you know, the rise of, nationalist governments and state and national governments. I mean, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. I
There's a
think
lot going on.
it's now
But having
time.
said all this, Asha, I think a collaborative approach is the way forward. Anywhere that I'm going, and anybody I'm talking to, I've seen the power of collaboration. I've seen amazing stuff happening out of collaborations, and and I feel competition is always going to be there. There's always going to be competition. But are you creating something
Yeah.
meaningful? And to
Yes.
create something meaningful, do you have the right brains along with you? Or can you do it all by yourself? Right? So um, I think everyone, I think I keep thinking about it, whenever I get a little distracted, I go and I start reading, and I always come back to this point that no, collaboration is the key. Collaborative, because everyone wants to grow, right? Everyone wants to do their best. Nobody's, yeah,
Absolutely.
and everyone wants to do meaningful work. So I think
Yeah.
that's something we all should try to integrate in ourselves as people, rather than coming out of an equation. How can you really be inclusive and
Yes.
build something together?
Yes. Absolutely. I really agree with you. And when I took on this directorship at BBN, I really didn't feel qualified to do it. It's not, I don't have, a management background. I'm not. It's not. The I think the values that you're talking about is what we're trying to bring to the team is valuing each and every person individually and collaboratively as a team, and
Yes.
recognizing that space, and at the same time not be falsely sweet,
That's not
to be
required.
honest,
That's not
not to
required.
feel threatened by your honesty or somebody else's honesty, but with respect, you know yeah, it's been a great learning for me. We're
Amazing, amazing. I've loved this chat.
yes, that's so
So,
much.
one other thing that I
And thank
wanted to ask you was, how
you all.
did all this experience, right, translate into the work that you are doing with BBN? All the,
I'm
your
sorry.
experience as a set, as a person.
Okay, I think you said suddenly I think you said,
Yeah,
how does this translate to work in? Um,
BBN and the work in the health
yeah.
care segment. Yeah.
Well, just to kind of, and I'll keep it short because I know it's been a long time, and it's great
Yeah.
that we've had, people join us. I think again we follow. Um, it's again comes back to what we were talking about. So we really try not to get fixed into a particular
Yeah.
identity, a
I
particular
agree.
of this
Yeah.
is what women's health, what you should get if you have, if you, to be satisfied with the care that you're receiving in pregnancy and in birth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 had to happen, and otherwise it's not a good birth, or it's not a great experience. We really try to stay away from that. We try to, of course, we're very evidence based. We keep up with what the medical evidence shows about the use of certain care models and the use of certain interventions. But we really try to listen to each and every person. And it's not always women. Of course, a lot of times it's women who contact us, but there's also a lot of men who contact us for a family member. And we try to hear what, not just hear what they're saying, it's also hearing between the lines and
Yeah.
what their experience, what has happened to them in the past, what are they looking for, what would, where do they really, um, where they feel safe and supported, what kind of care, and in what way, and that varies from person to person. I mean, we recently had a woman contacted us who was very clear she wanted a hospital birth. She did not want a non-hospital birth, or that was not her ideal. She had certain problems, and so the issue is to help them really kind of sift through the evidence. What works for them, given their emotional status, their health status, and who's out there that can support them and provide that kind of care. So
Yeah.
I think the great thing about BN, Divya, is that we work with really such a range of people. We work with, you know, the urban educated class, but we also work with the urban poor, and we're
Yeah.
soon going to work with the rural poor. I personally have a lot of experience working in rural poor communities, but and
Fabulous,
it's
fabulous.
a, it's a framework, I would say, that we need to transform quality of care everywhere and everywhere.